So, of course, in Kashmir's context, there's a specific question of what kind of symbolism Ahad Jan holds for the people of the valley after the number of turnarounds by both Ahad Jan himself and the state government. But there's also the wider question of shoe throwing itself. Why has it come to be such a potent symbol of protest? Is it because it grabs the headlines immediately? Is it because it gives the marginalized one way of attacking the powerful? Or is it just another example of hooliganism that's being romanticized by the media? And if it's romanticized anymore, could it create possible anarchic situations? Let's start with voices from the valley. Sajad Lone, if I can start with you. You saw, as we all did, those images of Omar Abdullah and Ahad Jan yesterday in what seemed to be a moment of reconciliation. Now, this was particularly confusing because before that, Ahad Jan had been hailed as some sort of a symbol by many Kashmiris of the popular sentiment on the ground. But he seemed to be literally weeping in front of the Chief Minister. Today, we see him, propagating a very different kind of politics. What do you think this does to the messaging out of this shoe-throwing incident?
Well, I find the whole incident very bizarre because I personally don't condone such incidents under any circumstances, because then even a disgruntled employee to a disgruntled worker could hurl a shoe at everybody. But the way the reprieve has gone, because of the symbolism that you were talking about, that's the worrying factor for, I think, the state government and Mr. Omar Abdullah, is a symbolism, what it evoked amongst the people. And they went into damage control. The reprieve was very theatrical. And the messages of Ramadan, as Farooq Saab also said just now, one of the things that people have been asking me is that if they're so concerned about Ramadan, why are they rounding up young children and putting them in jail and slapping PSA? So this theatrical performances in reprieve, and then he going, I think they should now put an end to all this and stop trying to score points, because they better work on the ground rather than feel that if they give a reprieve to Mr. Ahad Jan, that it would have a positive impact. I think it's getting very bizarre.
But Sajad, I find it interesting. Sajad, I find it interesting that you said in the beginning that you personally condemn these sort of incidents. But when the shoe narrowly missed Omar Abdullah, he quipped in what many thought was a gracious comment. Well, at least it's not a stone. So if you condemn shoe throwing, by extension, do you condemn stone pelting or any mode of protest that suggests a sort of vigilante form of protest?
You see, when I say that I don't like shoe throwing, it's one individual making up his mind that either Sajad or Barkha is not nice, and he takes a shoe and throws it at us. The other thing, if there are thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, spread across valley, protesting, you can't compare the two. These are completely two different situations. I'm talking about the right of an individual or the right of the masses to protest. So the right of the masses certainly is there, but I can't compare it with the right of one individual deciding that he has to make a protest and do it in a particular manner. So they're completely two different things.
Okay, that's an important and interesting distinction. Chandan Mitra, do you accept that distinction? Do you accept that when something has critical mass, as the protests in Srinagar and across the valley certainly seem to, that is also a form of lawlessness, but it's a form of lawlessness that needs to be understood in a wider context of political discontent, of political anger, of civilian killings. 58 people now dead in Kashmir. But when you see one man hurling a shoe, whether it's George Bush or Asif Ali Zardari or Omar Abdullah or Mr. Chidambaram, it's very different, it's whimsical, and it should not be romanticized.
Well, I think there are two points here, and Sajjad has made a very important observation, which I entirely disagree with. But before coming to that, you pose the question whether it's a hero or villain. I think neither. I think anybody who indulges in shoe throwing is of unstable mind, is a self-seeking publicist, and the less publicity and romanticizing that we do, I think better for the democratic order. Because the shoe throwing happens each time by people misusing their access, and I'm particularly concerned, Barkha, as you must be, that most of the time people actually get in posing as journalists. In this particular case, of course, he did not do that. Ahad Jan did not do that. But previous
I can't tell you how many shoes I wanted to hurl at some press conferences, though.
I'm sure, and many a time one can feel that way, but you actually didn't, because you don't need just 15 minutes of fame, whereas some people think that yes, that's about all they can get, and therefore it happens.